Rebounded by Jaden Zachary. Pass over to Mason Madsen at the buzzer. Gets it for the tie. Oh my goodness. Another shot to tie it, sending it into overtime. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Bobby Valentine Sports Show. I'm your host, Frank Rampin, and let's dive into another week of the college basketball season. And it is finally here. It is finally time for March Madness today, March 19th, 2024. The first four begin tonight. Kicks it off with Howard. And I don't even know who they're playing, but the first playing game is Howard and them, and then Colorado State, Virginia tonight, too. I think that could be a great game. But action happening in Conference Championship Week. Conference Tournament Week was unbelievable. So many unbelievable, unreal games, buzzer beaters, plays, just upsets, miracle runs. Just a whole week of insaneness for college basketball. And now we get into the nitty-gritty of it. March Madness is here. So, weekly recap. Get into it. 21 non-1 seeds won their conference tournaments. 21 of 32 non-1 seeds won their conference tournament. That's tied for the second most in the last 25 years. Second most in the last quarter century. Most since 2016. Unreal. 5 of the top 6 teams in the AP poll did not win their conference tournaments. The only one that did was UConn. They won the Big East. All the other 5 out of the top 6 lost. NC State became the second 10 seed to win their conference tournament ever with 2006 Xavier. They did it when they were back in the Atlantic 10 back in 2006. And NC State, they're the second team since 1939 to win 5 games in 5 days in the conference tournament. It was unbelievable. They went all the way from Tuesday to Saturday in the ACC tournament. First team to ever do that. 5 wins in 5 days in a row for them. Taking it off with a victory over the North Carolina Tar Heels in the ACC tournament. It was unbelievable. What a week it was. Temple, they were an 11 seed in the in the American. And they fell just short in the conference championship game of becoming the first 11 seed to ever win a conference championship. So, unreal week of college basketball. Unprecedented bid stealing. The bubble this year was maybe the most insane bubble I've ever seen. And for the first time in the history of the NCAA tournament, there's 2 play-in games for 10 seeds. Never happened before, ever. It's usually 16s and 11s. This year, 10. So, last AP poll of the year. Let's run through it real quick before we go into our plays of the week, because there's multiple this week. Championship tournament weekend was too good to have just one. There's 5. And then our game of the week was unreal, so we'll go into it. And then our tournament recap. Or our tournament, tournament breakdown, hype up action. So let's get into it. Last AP poll of the year. And the number 1 overall seed heading into the tournament, the UConn Huskies. They were the only team that won out of those top 3 seeds, UConn, Houston, and Purdue this weekend. UConn, they beat Marquette in the Big East championship game. Started off as a crapshoot of a game. Defensive battle, 2-0 for 10 entire minutes of the first half. Ended up pulling away late in the second half. UConn, only one of the top 6 to win their conference tournament. Houston fell from 1-2. They lost by 30 points in the Big 12 championship game to Iowa State. They're the 1 seed in the South. Purdue, they lost to Wisconsin in the Big 10 semis. That was an unbelievable game. That was our game of the week. We'll show you that one soon. They're 1 in the Midwest. Iowa State, after that big win against Houston, one of the hottest teams in the country, they win the Big 12 tournament. They move up to the 4 seed in the AP poll. But that doesn't really matter because the committee put them as a 2 seed in the tournament. They're the 2nd seed in the East. North Carolina, who got that last number 1 seed, they're the 1 in the West. They're number 5 overall. Tennessee lost in their first game of the SEC tournament to Mississippi State. Josh Hubbard had been unbelievable for Mississippi State. That they have a tight game. Who's their 9 matchup? We'll get into that, but I have the whole bracket list coming up. But that's going to be a good game. Auburn, they won the SEC tournament. They jump all the way into the top 10, all the way up to 7. Marquette, they're 8 now. Lost to UConn in the Big East championship game. They're a 2 seed as well. Arizona, 2 seed 2. They lost to Oregon in the Pac-12 semis. Oregon, another one of those bid stealers I was talking about earlier. So NC State so far and Oregon, 2 of the teams that ended up winning their conference tournaments, stealing bids from other teams. Illinois, they won the Big 10. They're number 10 in the country. Creighton lost to Providence in the Big East tournament. They're number 11. Kentucky, number 12, lost to Texas A&M in the SEC quarterfinal in their first game of the tournament. Duke lost to NC State in the first round, their first game of the ACC quarters. That was a part of NC State's unbelievable run. They beat Duke and UNC in their route to winning the ACC championship. Baylor lost to Iowa State in the Big 12 semis. They're 14. St. Mary's, number 15, the first mid-major team here. St. Mary's, they won the WCC, first time winning the regular season and the conference tournament championship since 2011-2012 in the West Coast Conference. Third consecutive NCAA tournament appearance for the Gales, longest streak in school history. And in the last 8 games against the Gonzaga Bulldogs, like the team that kind of run the West Coast Conference historically, 4-4 in their last 8. It took them 26 games to get 4 wins in the last time. 4-22 from 2013 to 2022. 4-22 for a whole entire 9-year span. And then they go 4-4 over the last 2 years. So maybe a turnaround for the Gales, as now they're able to beat their biggest rival in their conference, their biggest conference foe. And first time since 2011-12 winning the regular season and the tournament championship, and third consecutive March Madness appearance. South Carolina lost to Auburn in the SEC quarters. They're number 16. Kansas lost their first game in the Big 12 tournament. Banged up Kansas team. Kevin McCullough Jr., he's been hurt all year. He's missed a good majority of Big 12 games. He's still banged up. Apparently he will play, but we don't know how healthy he is. Hunter Dickinson dislocated his left shoulder, which is not good. His shooting shoulder, I believe it was. So they're supposed to be back, but they're playing Samford. That could be a tough game for them. 18, Gonzaga, mentioned them. They lost to St. Mary's in the WCC final. Alabama, they lost their first game in the SEC tournament. They've been a little bit on a downswing lately. They're number 19. Utah State, here's our first Mountain West team. They lost to San Diego State in the Mountain West semis, but still the highest ranked team from the conference. BYU, number 21, lost to Texas Tech in the Big 12 quarters. Texas Tech, they lost to Houston in the Big 12 semis. So those two Big 12 opponents right next to each other. Wisconsin, number 23, moving into the AP poll for the first time in I think a month, maybe over a month. They beat Purdue, like I mentioned earlier, in the Big 10 semis. Then they lost to Illinois in the final. But great game, great run from Wisconsin, getting themselves as a 5 seed in the tournament. But we'll break down that. They were also our game of the week. San Diego State, another Mountain West team here. They lost to New Mexico in the Mountain West Championship game in New Mexico. Interesting team. We'll get into them a little bit more. A lot of people very high on Richard Pitino's squad. And then rounding out the top 25 for the last time, Washington State, they lost to Colorado in the Pac-12 semis. They round out the final week 19, I believe it was, maybe 20, poll. So, not like that really matters, but just had to give a quick update for that now that the tournament is finally here. So now, I just witnessed one of the arguably one of the greatest conference tournament weeks ever. The amount of bid stealers, the amount of crazy finishes, the amount of unreal plays that happened during this week that contributed to the wildest bubble we may have ever seen in the history of college basketball. So let's dive into it. Plays of the week here, and I've got a total of 5. So in chronological order, these all came in the same week within like 3 days of each other in chronological order. So we'll pick it up here. First round of the SEC tournament. 4-point lead for the Arkansas Razorbacks over Vandy. 2 struggling teams in the SEC, obviously playing in the first round. Vandy only 9 wins, but Arkansas, who had been a good team over the past couple of years, just 1 game under 500, 6-12 in the SEC. But 78-74, Arkansas on top. Mississippi State has a chance here, looking to cut the deficit. Ezra Manjon lays it in to make it a 2-point game. So Arkansas needs to get it in. Quick foul, looking for a trap, quick foul if you're Vandy. But they get a steal off the inbound pass. Malik Presti steals it, gets it back to Manjon, and he's got 8 seconds, 2-point game, 5, 4, probing in the lane, spinning, throwing up a fader at the buzzer, and he gets it. Sending this one to overtime, and as soon as I saw this, I was like, all right, here we go. Conference tournaments have started. Let's freaking get it. So, what a shot by Ezra Manjon, sending this game to overtime, but Arkansas would inevitably win the game 90-85 in the overtime period. So, the next night, this was a crazy, crazy game. Big East tournament. This time, so Villanova, we're a bubble team, needing wins in this Big East tournament, needing to make a deep run, potentially getting to the final. So, they're playing, and I believe it was the second round of the Big East tournament. They're playing DePaul. DePaul has 3 wins on the season. 3 on the whole year. One of the worst teams in all of college basketball. At least one of the worst major teams in college basketball. Tied up with Villanova, fighting for a spot on the bubble with 1 minute and 17 seconds to go. 55-55. We'll jump in with 1 minute 15 left to go here. Jalen Terry pulls up from the elbow, and he nails it. So DePaul leads with 1 minute to go here, 57-55, all the way down to 15 seconds left. Justin Moore pulls up for three in the lead, and he gets it. At 8.8 to go, what a gutsy shot from Justin Moore, but here comes DePaul. Ball gets knocked around, there's a wild scrum for it, and guess who's got it? Justin Moore. He runs the clock out. What a finish for Nova, keeping their tournament hopes alive. Clutch shot from Justin Moore for this Wildcat team. Unbelievable game. This was a wild game. I couldn't believe that Nova was tied with close to DePaul for the entirety of the game. And then DePaul, that was Jalen Terry. He had a great game. He was a great shooter in that game, but just not enough finally. So the next day, Villanova advances, obviously, because they win that game. Just saw the ending of it. Their next game against Marquette in the, I believe, the semifinals? No, excuse me, the quarterfinals. So the Big East quarterfinals between Villanova and Marquette. Villanova coming off a crazy win we just saw against DePaul. Tied up 58-58, 2.3 seconds to go. Marquette's got the ball. So just call the timeout. Shaka Smart, what's he got drawn up here? Marquette, 2.3 to go. Inbound pass to Oso Iguodara, bounced over to Cam Jones, layup at the buzzer, and he gets the roll. What an unreal play call by Shaka Smart to get it to Oso Iguodara, bounce pass to the lane. What a lay-in by Cam Jones. Wow. Eagles win, or Golden Eagles win. What a finish. But take a look at the replay. The ball is just ever so slightly in the fingertips of Cam Jones. Maybe the closest call I've ever seen in a buzzer beater in my entire life. But they go to the monitor, they wave it off, and you can see the reaction of Marquette and Cam Jones here. Ready to go to overtime. Iguodara trying to hype up the squad, but wow. Had to show that one. That was an unreal play call, play design, everything about it executed to perfection. Just 0.0001 seconds too late. Unreal finish that was. Go to overtime. Marquette takes down Villanova 71-65. So after two back-to-back nail-biting finishes for the Wildcats, their tourney hopes were slashed in the quarterfinals. So later on that night, Boston College, Virginia in the quarterfinal of the ACC. I mean, just bam, nonstop action this week. Let's get into it. So 2-point lead for Virginia with 19 seconds to go, 10 seconds to go here. BC has a chance. Claudel Harris, the top of the key, pulls up for a deep three in the lead, but he misses it. Rebounded by Jaden Zachary, pass over to Mason Madsen at the buzzer, gets it for the tie. Oh my goodness, another shot to tie it, sending it into overtime. This has been the week of the buzzer beater. Mason Madsen takes a hop step a little bit in front of the three-point line, pulls up with 1 second to go, and nails it. Ties it up. The Eagles alive, sending Virginia to overtime, but Virginia would hang on 66-60. So a little bit of a theme here. All the teams that are hitting these buzzer beaters, not winning the games. But let's go to our final play of the week now. The next night, guess who's playing again? Virginia. Who are they playing against? NC State. This time the ACC semifinal. 3-point game, 58-55, Virginia on top, 5.3 to go. Isaac McNeely at the line, and he misses the first of a 1-and-1. Pass up to Michael O'Connell, 3, 2, 1, at the buzzer, deep three, off the window, toilet bowl, and down. Ties the game at the buzzer. 2 days in a row, Virginia heads to overtime after their opponent nails a buzzer beater against them. Look at this shot, right in his face. Deep three from the left wing, nails it in off the glass. Are you kidding me? What a week of finishes, buzzer beaters, and it's just officially March. Conference championship week, conference tournament week. Just let everyone know the madness was officially here. And that was just unbelievable right there from Michael O'Connell. And what do you know? This time, NC State and the people who hit the buzzer beater to send to overtime win it. Head to the ACC championship game, and they take down the North Carolina Tar Heels, and they're going dancing. One of the most improbable stories of the entire year, the North Carolina State Wolfpack headed to the dance. First time they won the ACC since Jimmy Valvano was their coach. Last time they won the ACC, Jimmy V was running around the court freaking out like 40 years ago, almost 37 years ago. Unreal. So, plays of the week, because I could not pick just one from this unbelievable conference tournament week. What a day. But now, Game of the week time, and I've alluded to it a couple times already. This came in the Big Ten semifinals between the number 5 ranked in the conference, Wisconsin Badgers, and the number 1 in the Big Ten, Purdue Boilermakers. So we'll pick it up early on here. Still 19 minutes left to go here in this first half. Max Klesmit driving, pulling up from the free throw line and nailing it. So 3-2. Wisconsin behind by 1. Braden Smith into Edey. Double comes back out to Braden Smith for 3, and he nails it. So 6-2 here. Purdue up early. Jump ahead here. Dogfight game all around. Back and forth between the Badgers and the Boilermakers. Really, really made it tough for Purdue and Zach Edey was Wisconsin. AJ Storr was great in this game. So AJ Storr, one of the premier players on this Badgers team, nails a 3 at the end of the shot clock to cut the deficit to 1. So just before the under 12-minute timeout, Wisconsin trailing by 1 here. Good ball movement here from the Badgers. Back to Storr in the corner. Another 3 goes. Gets it back again to a 1-point game, and AJ Storr is cooking. Next Badger possession after a stop. Stephen Crowell in the lane lays it in, and the Badgers have their first lead of this one about halfway through this first half. Badgers coming again. Chucky Hepburn over to AJ Storr again from the corner, and what do you know? Green light again. 4-point lead for the Badgers over halfway through this first half. So still a 3-point lead here for the Badgers. AJ Storr with the rock again. Driving into the lane, pulling up, tough mid-range shot. Extends the lead to 5. 30-25 here. Waning moments of the first half. 2 minutes to go. AJ Storr driving in, an athletic finish by him. Up and under move, getting the roll. So we go to halftime tied up at 36. Very, very close back and forth game early on in this game. So we'll jump to the second half now. Anything you could have possibly asked for as a college basketball fan. But now, 8.5 minutes left to go in this second half. 49-49. Chucky Hepburn gets a steal on Gillis. He drives in and slams it down, putting the Badgers up 2. So Gillis, the guy who just threw that one away for Purdue. Braden Smith kicks it back out to Gillis. Pump fake gets 2 Badger defenders, and then he nails a 3. Great shot, huge shot there from Mason Gillis. 1-point lead for the Boilermakers. Inside to Edey. Backing down. Little baby hook gets it to go. That's just his go-to move over the left-hand shoulder. You're not tall enough to defend that. It's not going to happen. Zach Edey, too easy. That's going to do it every single time. Max Klesmit buries a 3. Carter Gilmore buries a 3. Gillis responding with a 3 of his own. 1-point lead for the Boilermakers here. Edey out to Fletcher Lawyer for 3. He gets it. So a 4-point lead getting under 3 minutes to go now for Purdue. Max Klesmit, good find there. Lays it in to tie it up. Under 2 minutes left to go here. Edey gets the bucket plus the foul inside of a minute to go. Of course, Zach Edey's going to hit the free throw. So a 3-point lead for Purdue. Under a minute left to go, Zach Edey too strong. Too strong, too big, too much. So Chucky Hepburn down by 3. 10 seconds to go here for the Badgers. Driving in, trying to draw some contact. Doesn't get the call, but he gets the layup to go. 1-point game with 6.5 seconds to go. 1-point lead for Purdue. Boilermakers get it into their big man, Zach Edey. He gets fouled immediately. He goes 1 for 2 from the line. So a 2-point lead for the Boilermakers. Badgers get the ball back. 2.7 seconds left to go. Inbound pass to Chucky Hepburn because Zach Edey's on the ball. He can go right to the rim and lay it in at the horn. Great move by Chucky Hepburn, knowing that Edey's out on the perimeter, unable to get into the paint, takes it right in there. Layup at the buzzer is good. 66-66. We got extra basketball coming here in the Big Ten semis. So about 1:30 to go. AJ Storr pulling up by the free throw line and getting it to go. Tough shot from Storr, ties it up at 72. A minute left to go here in overtime. 45 seconds left. Purdue up 3. Hepburn to the rim, getting the layup. 1-point game now. 38.6 seconds to go. So after Lance Jones goes 1 from 2 from the line, Storr misses a 3. Then Edey gets fouled and makes both of the free throws. So then Hepburn cuts it down to 1. And then we have a 1-point game, 75-74, Purdue on top. Badgers with the ball and 10 seconds left to go. Chucky Hepburn driving, passes it out to Klesmit. He drives in, floater in the lane, gets the bounce. It goes in with 4.8 to go. Lance Jones and the Boilers need a miracle. Going up, deep 3, air ball. Wisconsin takes down the Boilermakers and heads to the Big Ten championship game to face Illinois in the Fighting Illini. What a game from Wisconsin, the Badgers, to take down this number 1 seeded Purdue team. Wow. So maybe a little bit of March tightness like we've seen over the past few years from Purdue and the Boilermakers. But maybe, on the other hand, it'll be the loss that they need to get them right back into shape before they head into March. But nevertheless, unbelievable performance from Wisconsin and the Badgers to take down Purdue. Zach Edey, unreal game. So much action over conference tournament weekend. So much action. But we finally made it to the light at the end of the tunnel. Today is the first day of the first 4. First 2 games of the March Madness start today, but Thursday is when things really start to get down. The round of 64 begins on Thursday. It's going to be an unreal tournament this year. So let's talk about the previous conference champions real quick. A little breakdown of the major conference tournaments. So the first one, I touched on a couple of them already. The Big 12 Tournament Championship. Number 7, Iowa defeated number 1, Houston, 69-41 in almost a 30-point blowout. Of the Mountain West, New Mexico beat San Diego State. So now 6 Mountain West teams made the tournament, most in the history of the Mountain West Conference. The Big Ten tournament, we mentioned it, or Big East, UConn defeated Marquette. Talked about that a little bit. First Big East tournament championship for the Huskies since 2011. The ACC tournament, NC State completed a historic run. They beat number 4 North Carolina in the championship, 84-76. Like I said before, first ACC team in history to win 5 games in 5 straight days to win the conference tournament. The Pac-12, Oregon stole it, took Colorado in the final 75-68 to steal that bid. The SEC was taken home by Auburn. The Tigers took down Florida 86-67. And the Big Ten, Illinois defeated Wisconsin 93-87. So those are your big major conference tournaments. So let's jump into the bracket breakdown. A little bit of a preview into March Madness, the NCAA tournament, and let's go region by region. So we'll start off with what I think is the best region. Like, this region is an absolute juggernaut. Like, this is a problem. And I don't understand why this happened. I'll get into it now, but someone is going to have to answer this for me, and I don't get it. Someone explain to me why. That UConn, they get the number 1 overall seed, meaning they're the best team in college basketball. So they should, in hand, kind of get treated like the best team in basketball, right? So tell me why. UConn, number 1 overall seed, best team in college basketball, Big East champions. Iowa State, one of the hottest teams in basketball, ranked number 4 in the AP poll at the end of the year, wins the Big 12, beats Houston, the previous number 1 overall team, by 30 points in the Big 12 championship, the 2 seed. The 3 seed, Illinois, Big 10 champions. Terrence Shannon sets the record for the most points ever scored in a Big 10 tournament. 3 seed. And then the 4 seed, Auburn Tigers, the SEC champions. So arguably, the 4 best leagues in college basketball, Big 10 being the first, Big 12 being the first best league in college basketball, Big 10 being the second, Big East is up there, and the SEC is up there too. So those are the best 4 conferences in college basketball. So you're going to take the champion of all of them and put them in the same region? I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me, especially looking at the Midwest. But we'll get onto it. I digress. I think this is the hardest region by far. But some intriguing matchups in this one. The 8-9 matchups are always kind of fun to watch. FAU Northwestern could be a good one. Vlad Golden, if FAU advances, Vlad Golden and the guard play of FAU could maybe give UConn a little bit of a run through their money, because Vlad Golden may be one of the only big men in college basketball that could line up with Donovan Clingan. And the 2 guards, John L. Davis, and I'm forgetting the other one, but they're nasty. Like, they could meet a matchup with anybody. But Boo Buie of Northwestern, all-time leading scorer in the history of Northwestern, he's a force to be reckoned with too. BYU Duquesne, that could be an interesting game. BYU, they live and die by the 3. They take 50 a game. So if they're not shooting well, Duquesne, they have some of the best free throw shooters in the country. So if they can keep that game tight, maybe turn it into a foul off at the end, who knows what can happen in that one. Last game over here, Drake favorited as a 10 seed to take down Washington State. Washington State a little bit on the downswing. Tucker DeVries. I'm taking Drake. Tucker DeVries. If you don't know that name, you're going to know it by the end of this weekend, I believe. Tucker DeVries and the Drake Bulldogs, they could go into the second weekend, I think. Take a look at them. They took down Indiana State and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's why they're not here, because of Tucker DeVries. Everyone's talking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm getting snubbed. What about Tucker DeVries? This is the guy who's in it. The reason why he's not. So let's move down to the South now. Nebraska A&M. That's where my eyes are at. Wade Taylor IV, point guard for Texas A&M, the Aggies. They've been hovering around the bubble kind of a lot this year. But, I mean, this backcourt, Wade Taylor IV can drop 40 points on you any night. He really can. He's done it multiple times this year. He's a great shooter. But on the other side, Keisei Tominaga for this Cornhuskers team also could go off on you any given day. Great, great shooter. Lefty, Japanese Steph Curry. That's what we call him. But that's going to be a great game. Wisconsin and JMU is a must-watch first-round matchup. NC State coming off hot, a historical ACC run, could give Texas Tech some problems potentially. Colorado, they've been hot. Florida's been very good, but I could see Colorado giving them a run for their money if they win a play-in game tomorrow night. Oakland. Okay, hear me out here. Oakland University Bears. They're playing the Kentucky Wildcats. 4 versus 13. Kentucky's a very young team. I've been talking a lot of good about them. Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepard, Antonio Reeves. I really like them. I really think they're a good team. I do. I just think they're a little bit underexperienced. Like, Antonio Reeves is their backbone. He's their senior. When things are kind of going well out of the way, you got to give him the ball and let him settle you down. Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepard, you could speed them up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, they're freshmen. They like to play fast, Kentucky as a whole. But Oakland, they play unbelievable defense at Oakland. They are very well coached. They have Greg Camp, who is the longest active tenured D1 coach. 40 seasons at Oakland. He's been there since 1984. 40 seasons as the head coach of the Oakland Bears. 698 career wins. That's third among active D1 coaches at one school behind Mark Few and Tom Izzo at Gonzaga and Michigan State, respectively. And this is going to be the fourth time Oakland's going to be in the NCAA tournament, and Greg Camp's led them to all 4. All of them at the D1 level, obviously, including this season, and it's their first time in 2011. So this team, this Oakland team, they play feisty defense. They defend the 3 well. They turn you over, and they shoot the 3 well. So if they're able to score and play decent enough defense with Greg Camp at the helm, I think they could give this young, inexperienced Kentucky team a run for their money. But we'll see. The Midwest, Purdue, I believe, has the easiest path to the Final Four, which I don't understand. I touched on it before, like UConn. They snagged that number 1 overall seed in the last kind of day because 5 of the top 6 AP poll ranks, top 6, 5 of them lost. The only one that didn't was UConn. Houston lost by 30 in the Big 12 championship, and Purdue lost in the semifinals of the Big 10. So that kind of paved the way for UConn to steal that number 1 spot. If you're the number 1 overall seed, why are you not kind of getting you earned it, right? You should be giving a little bit of you should be getting the benefit of the doubt here, right? If there is, quote unquote, maybe a weaker region, wouldn't the number 1 overall seed who played the best, that got voted by the committee to be the number 1 overall seed, get that? I don't really understand that because Midwest, Purdue being the number 1 seed, they're the 3rd ranked team in the AP poll. They lost in the semis in their conference tournament. I just don't get it, I'll be honest. But just look at this region. So the East region has the Big East champion, the Big 12 champion, the Big 10 champion, and the SEC champion. That's just absurd. Purdue, in this one, they have a team that lost in the semis of the Mountain West, Utah State, and they got snubbed of a pick. Utah State, that's crazy. TCU, I think they lost in the second or first round of the Big 12. Gonzaga, they lost in the championship of the WCC, but there's only 2 real teams in the WCC. We got McNeese, Kansas, who's been very underperformed. They're not Kansas this year. South Carolina, who's like, a lot of teams are picking Oregon to beat them. Oregon, who's a bid stealer in themselves. Creighton, that's their first real challenge here. They're playing Akron. And then Texas and Virginia, Colorado State. I think Colorado State's going to beat Virginia today and then beat Texas tomorrow. So Tennessee and Creighton, in my opinion, are really the only two teams that would give Purdue a problem. And if Purdue doesn't make it to the Final Four this year, or at least the Elite Eight, I got no excuses for them. People say that with Kentucky, but I think Kentucky's a more younger, inexperienced team, and that's been the excuse for Purdue. They have young guards. Edie's great, but they're young guards. Everyone else is inexperienced. Now they're not. Braden Smith is not young anymore. Fletcher Lawyer, he's getting there. They got Lance Jones now, who's a transfer, experienced guy, good on defense, can knock down some tough shots for you. If they don't get to at least the Elite Eight, because, okay, think about it. If they get to the Elite Eight, all they have to do is beat Montana State or Grambling, Utah State or TCU, and Gonzaga. Like, that should happen if we're going to be real, right? Then the real test happens. But UConn, that same thing, they'd have to beat FAU, who was a Final Four team last year, San Diego State, who they played in the national championship game last year, or Auburn. And Auburn won the SEC. So, like, I don't really understand how that adds up. And it's not just me. A lot of committee members, or a lot of people, are questioning some of the decisions made by the committee members this year. And I can't help but agree. It's a little bit curious for me. So, let's talk about this a little bit. I think that there could be some crazy upsets in this region. So I think this also adds to the fact that Purdue is kind of getting the best opportunity here. I think there's going to be some upsets in this region. Like, sure, I talked about Purdue and have to maybe beat Gonzaga to get through. I have a feeling that Gonzaga might have a very tough first-round matchup. McNeese State is a very, very exciting team. They are very, very good. They have 30 wins. Gonzaga isn't as good as they've normally been. They're going to be a good team, right? I think they could make a run, but I think this is a great matchup. McNeese, they remind me a little bit of that high-flying Florida Gulf Coast team back from, what year was that? 2016, maybe? Something like that. But this reminds me a little bit of them. They have that high flyer, like, we can take it to you mentality. So I think that McNeese Gonzaga is going to be a really good game. And I've mentioned this before. Kansas is extremely banged up. Kevin McCullough Jr. is banged up. Hunter Dickinson is hurt. And Samford, Buckyball of Samford, they shoot very well from three. They rank 7 in the country, three-point shooting. And they're very deep. 10 different players on the Samford team average over 10 minutes a game. Kansas is the exact opposite. They're extremely thin, and on top of that, they're hurt. So they're going to have to be playing guys that they wouldn't rather be playing in these massive, massive minutes in the NCAA tournament if McCullough and Dickinson can't go for 40, which I don't think they will, especially if they're not 100%. And if they are they going to be as influential as they would be if they were at 100%? I don't think so. So that could be an interesting part, and that's at the same exact thing. So if McNeese beats Gonzaga and Samford beats Kansas, that's a 12-13 matchup right there. And if they win, they would go play Purdue. So I don't know. Maybe this is just how I feel about the specific rankings and how the matchups work, but I see potential for Purdue to play a very, very inferior opponent late in this tournament. And I just don't see that with UConn. Like, I see UConn running into a Final Four team from last year in the second round. FAU. And then San Diego State would have to play Auburn and beat them, but they played them in the national championship last year. And I honestly think Auburn is better. So that's what you got. You're going to go with, okay, you play the 16, then you got FAU probably, and then you got either San Diego State or Auburn. That's a tough, tough draw right there. Tough draw. And I mentioned this too. I think Colorado State has a good chance to beat Virginia tonight. Obviously, by the time this video gets posted, you probably will already know the answer to that. I'll be sounding like a fool this whole time or not. But I like them to take Texas down in that first round. So, final region of the bracket, the West. North Carolina, the 1 seed in this one. New Mexico, favorited as an 11 seed over Clemson. And actually, over the past 13 years, or I guess 12 years, since 2011, the 11 seed is 2 games over 500 against the 6 seed. So it used to be 12-5. Now it's 11-6. That's the moneymaker. Nevada, number 10, favored over 7 seed Dayton. I think this Nevada team is very good. I think the Mountain West got absolutely shafted in this selection on Selection Sunday. Utah State being an 8, Nevada being a 10. I just don't get it. Colorado State's way better than the last team in. The last team in, Colorado State. I don't think so. Gerard Lucas, one of the best scorers in this Mountain West team. I think he's going to have a great tournament. I got Nevada all the way to the Elite Eight. I got Nevada playing New Mexico in the Sweet 16 and beating them. So I got a Mountain West part of this Sweet 16. Alabama, they had a little bit of a shaky end of their year. They lose in their first SEC game. Charleston, they play at a similar style that Alabama does, like fast, bunch of shots. Could be a 200-point game. But this could be a wild finish, like 90s. Both teams scored 90, So that could be something to look for. Grand Canyon, Colgate, very good teams. GCU, they're playing St. Mary's. St. Mary's, they like to play extremely slow, and Grand Canyon's the exact opposite. They want to turn you over and play fast. So if they could get you running and get St. Mary's out of their own game, they could cause issues. Colgate, they play Baylor. They shoot the hell out of the ball. If they could do that, they could win. 15-seeded Long Beach State, they're taking on Arizona. Their head coach, Dan Monson, he's been there for 17 years as the head coach of Long Beach State. Today is Tuesday, March 19th. 8 days ago, on last Monday, before their conference tournament started, Long Beach State, they informed him they want to get rid of him, Dan Monson. 17 years, we're going to need a new voice of the program. And Dan Monson was like, okay, I'd love to finish out my season. I don't want to quit on my guys. And just after the conference tournament. And the AD was like, hey, I'd love for it to be now. We kind of got to start looking for our next guy. But we don't really have one. So do you mind coaching the conference tournament? Which, my opinion, pretty crazy thing to ask for. A little bit of a wild statement. Hey, you're fired, but you got another week for us? That's crazy. But Dan Monson, credit to him. Hell yeah, I got you guys. Let's do it. And what do? They run the table as the 4 seed, and they win the Big West tournament. And where are they going? They're heading right to the tournament, and they're going to face a 2-seed Arizona. What a feel-good story this is, Dan Monson. I hope he gets a great job next year. I hope he gets a big-time SEC job next year or something, because what a job. 17 years as the head coach. Doesn't want to get rid of his boys. Doesn't want to let down his boys after getting fired. So he stays with them. He's not even a member of he's not even a part of the school. He's not even a member of the, what's the word I'm looking for? He's not even a employee. He's just doing this for free. So he's about to try to make an NCAA tournament run for free. And that'll do it there for us. So that's this March Madness bracket breakdown, little pregame for it. Couple interesting nuggets of facts here that you might want to take into consideration before you make your bracket. I know 12 million have already been made, but you can make 25. You can make another one. There's never been a team that lost in the first round of their conference tournament to win the national championship. So if you lose in the first round of the ACC, SEC, Big 12, well, never gone on to win the national championship. So some important teams that lost in their first round, like their first game they played in their conference tournament, Tennessee lost in the first round. Kentucky lost in the first round. Alabama lost in the first round. So teams that people are taking to win, favorites, lost in the first round. And it's never happened in the history of the NCAA tournament. So something to think about as one of the greatest weeks of the year is upon us. For 2 first 4 games tonight, 2 first 4 tomorrow. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Games all day long from 12 to midnight. Don't miss a thing. And tomorrow morning at 6 a.m., the Major League Baseball season kicks off. You know me. I'll be up at 5 a.m. ready to go. By the time this video comes out, actually, you'll probably have already watched the game. The game will already have happened. I already have watched it. But everything's about to be crazy. March, what a time. March Madness upon us. Baseball season right around the corner. We'll be doing 2 a weeks. 1 March Madness, 1 baseball. So be ready for those. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Final episode before March Madness. We're finally here. So next week, we'll break down all the action from the first weekend of the tournament. Hopefully you have some crazy buzzer beaters in action like we did last week from the conference tournaments, and I know we will. So until next time, it's been me, Frank Rampin, on the Bobby Valentine Sports Show. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff at the Bobby Valentine Sports Show. Any questions about Bobby Valentine Sports Academy, hit up the bvacademy.com. Birthday parties, lessons, all that good stuff. But next week, we'll be back after the first round of the NCAA tournament, or after the first 2 rounds. First 2 rounds. And an extra episode once opening day happens. So we'll see you soon. Peace out.